Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Freightmaster Resources. My name is Tim. It's been a minute since I've done a video for you guys. So bear with me actually here just one moment. Alright, not sure what happened there, but I had a little technical glitch that happened. But anyway, yeah, it's been a minute since I've done a video for you guys, and I do apologize for that. I've just been severely swamped. We've been hiring, training, doing all kinds of things, and I just have not had time. And I keep telling myself, oh, I need to get to doing a video, and so I'm stealing some time out of my middle of my day here to get this done for you guys. So I have some friends of mine that are strictly carriers, drivers, and things like that, and acquaintances. Some are brokers and asset-based, and things. But here lately, there's been, I don't know if it's just coincidental, but I've gotten a lot of phone calls, messages, and things. Hey, Tim, do you have a minute? Would really like to talk to you about something. Okay. And a lot of those requests have been to discuss detention and layover. They're having a problem with the broker, not answering, things like this. Had a conversation Friday with a buddy of mine, and I'm not going to mention his name or anything, but he just called to let me know that he had a driver with they had booked a load with a brokerage out of Georgia, and the broker had set their delivery appointment for noon, and the driver arrived, I believe it was about 10:30, and so they told him, hey, we're not ready for you yet, just go ahead, take a nap or something, and we'll come knock on your door. Okay, fine. So driver goes back, to his truck. Finally, about 3 o'clock, he's like, hey, what's up? And come to find out that the delivery appointment actually was not set until 6 a.m. the following morning. That driver was scheduled to go pick up a relief load, right, for this Hurricane Ida, which was now going to put him late for, or have to find another load. So all that being said, they had tried to reach their broker. Broker wasn't answering, responding to emails, text messages, telegram, anything. And so he said, well, what can I do? And I said, well, have you worked with this broker in the past? Have they been good about, paying you detention, layover, anything like that? He said, nope, first load. And I said, okay, what does your carrier setup agreement say? Well, I don't know. And I said, okay. I said, is there anything in your rate confirmation that states anything about detention or layover? No. I said, well, go back, find your copy of your agreement with that broker, and find out, if they have anything in there in regards to detention pay, layover pay, etc., accessorials, all of that. So he found it, and there's literally nothing in that agreement in regards to layover or detention. So the reality of it is that if that broker doesn't want to pay him for any detention or anything, more or less, they can throw him a few bucks, which is inevitably basically what they ended up doing. I think they ended up paying him $150 or something, and that's it. So the reason I bring this up is because this is just one of so many stories I've gotten, or phone calls, messages, and things. A very, very similar situation, or hey, I was the last load of the day, I picked up. They closed the gates behind me and shut it down. By the time I got to the scale, found out I was overloaded, blah, blah, blah. it's not very far. Should I just go ahead and do it? And I said, don't you dare. So when I realize that, as a broker, a carrier, a dispatcher out there, our days go very, very quickly, right? Everything happens, lickety split. So what we really want to try to pay attention to when we're filling out those broker carrier agreements is don't just blanket sign those things, right? You want to find out what their layover and detention policy is. If there's nothing in there in regards to that, like it was for my friend, contact the broker, find out what their detention and layover policy is, and have them send you something stating that we will agree to pay, $50 an hour, $35 an hour, whatever their policy is, right? Another thing that you can do is put into a PDF format, and you can use DocuSign or anything like that. But if they don't have anything in there about their layover detention, or maybe they do, but maybe their detention policy is $25 an hour after 3 or 4 hours. It doesn't start after 2 hours. And this is where a lot of drivers, carriers, dispatchers, they get really frustrated, over this because they didn't read the agreement ahead of time, and then oh well, that's BS. We're out here doing this and that, and you're not going to pay me or pay me everything that I should get. Well, this is you've got to read. It's a contract. You wouldn't buy a house or anything else, without reading the contract, right? When we sign up for our cell phone service, there's a contract, it's no different. So, anywho, before I get too sidetracked there, put it into like a PDF format. And like I said, you can use DocuSign or something or not. But I would write in, fill something out in regards to what your charge is for detention, layover, accessorial, right? And send that to the broker and ask them to sign it. And they might not agree. Maybe your detention policy is $75 an hour or something. They're like, there's no way. We'll agree to $40 or $50 an hour detention. But see, then it's negotiable, right? It's better than maybe the $20 or $25 an hour that they would have paid you, right? And maybe you get them to start it after 2 hours instead of 3 or 4 hours, right? Because if you sit there for 6 hours and they don't start their own detention policy until after 3 or 4 hours, you're only going to get paid for 2 to 3 hours, right? When it should be easily 4. So yeah, if you don't have something like that, and I am trying to find some sort of a template, and when I do, I will put that on the website as a free download that you guys can download, edit, drop your company logo on there, make it look very, formatted to your own paperwork and things. Another thing I kind of wanted to talk about today, and I realize it's a little bit off topic from what the title of the video is, and that is brokers posting loads. In the past month, I've seen, and they should know better. I've seen some brokers post the same load 15 times on the load board, and I don't know what it is that a truck stop or DAT can do to combat that, but something I think needs to be done. It throws the load to truck ratio off, even though there might only be one load. Or another thing is some of these shippers that maybe they ship out 5 to 10 loads a week. They're a small shipper, but they've got 40 brokers that they work with. It's ridiculous. There's no need for that, And then what I'm seeing too is that you see a broker say, okay, let's just say DAT market average on a particular lane is $1,200. Okay, so and it's all and the customer says, hey, get me your best rate. You know, they're not giving the broker a rate. They say, what's your best rate? You know, turn in a bid to me. So you get 20 brokers working this one load. They've all got it posted. Broker one, maybe they post it at $1,000, leave themselves some room to negotiate, right? And I do think that the market rates are overinflated. I don't think that they are, at least in some, are quite as high as they truly are. But I digress. So then broker two sees that, and he'll say, okay, well, broker one's posting it at 1,000. I'm going to post it at 1,100, and so on and so on and so on. And maybe they only up themselves by $50, trying to attract that carrier. But inevitably, what happens for that shipper is they end up way overpaying for the load because they have a transportation budget too. They've got expenses, whether it be manufacturing expenses or whatever, you know, just like carriers, brokers, etc. do. We all have expenses, you know. So they're doing themselves a disservice versus just having, you know, one or two really good brokers that they could be working with. And I don't know truly how to combat that. I wish I did. If you guys have any thoughts on that, let me know. Drop a comment down below on that. We have a comment from Muhammad. Which trucks get paid more per mile, 53 foot or 26 foot box truck? Well, that's sort of a general question, Muhammad, and I don't have a specific answer for you. What I can tell you is it really depends on the market area, right? Like if you were to go into Florida, which traditionally getting back out of Florida is very, very cheap. Some other states are very cheap to get out of as well. I'm just using Florida as an example, which is why carriers get paid more to go into Florida. Because they're going to get, you know, hit pretty hard. You know, they're not going to get a very good rate coming back out of Florida. It also depends on whether you're moving it as full truckload or if you're moving like LTL or partials. I know some carriers, they strictly do partials. And I've got some that work with me and they haul loads for me every week. You know, and they make more money on partials than they do, you know, running as a full truckload. So, I mean, and it also depends on, like, see, this, it depends on your, I mean, if you're looking at, I guess, profitability, I mean, it depends upon what your expenses are. There's just too many factors involved. And one thing I try to tell, like, new brokers and carriers, this brings up a good point, and now I'm really glad that you asked me this, because what I try to tell people is to follow the commodity, right? Because not every load is the same, and I understand that carriers say, well, I need a certain amount minimum per mile, but the customer's transportation budget might not allow for that. I've got some customers, they ship scrap material. Literally, the value of that stuff is like, and it's light material, right? But the value of it is only like anywhere between 5 and 15 cents a pound. So if they send me a 3,000 pound load, right? And let's just go on the high end times, I mean, the total value of that load is $450, right? And these are typically partials. It's, you know, maybe 3 skids. They realize that they have to pay more than that for the load, but then when I get, you know, like let's say it's going from Phoenix, Arizona to Dallas or something, right? That partial, what a lot of brokers will do is they'll say, okay, that lane, market average on that lane is, let's say, $3,300. All right. It's 2 skids, so it's taken up 4 feet of space. They're standard size skids. It's taken up 4 feet of space on that trailer. So 3,300 divided by 53-foot trailer brings that out so each foot on that trailer is worth $62.26 times 4 feet, which is how much it's taking, is $249.05. Now obviously, most carriers won't deliver those 2 skids for $250. I've had some that have in the past, but it just depends upon what all else they have with it. And I realize I'm kind of jumping all over the place, but you kind of got my mind thinking on this. But I forgot where I was at with all of that. But yeah, it really depends on the lane, what you're hauling. But follow the commodities, right? So using that particular scrap material load as an example, it's not going, the value of it and the customer's budget on that is not going to be the same as it is for, say, 2 skids of copper parts, brand new copper parts, let's say like little pipe fittings or something, right? The value of that load is more. The customer's transportation budget is a little bit more. They might say, well, we can do 800 on those 2 skids or something, or whatever it may be. But and that's why a lot of I hear carriers, they say, well, I run this lane and I normally get $2,400 for that, but all I can pay is 2. Maybe the customer's paying me $2,200 on it. We're not going to get to 24. Right, and maybe the customer says, maybe they've got some wiggle room on that particular load. It's urgent or something, and we can get to 24, but most oftentimes not. And it's just a difference in commodity and the customer's transportation budget. So there again, I tell everybody to kind of follow the commodity when you're, as a broker and you're soliciting prospects. Follow the commodity, because and there again, not every shipper is equal, right? So even though, like let's just say you've got 2 separate shippers that ship copper fitting parts, from our example earlier, one shipper might pay more than the other. It just depends. But 80 to 90% of the time, following the commodity will hold true. The higher the value of the load, typically pays more. And that's why the variance, when carriers ask, well, how come you can't pay that? There you go. It's customer's transportation budget, commodity, et cetera, et cetera. So I hope that in a roundabout way helped to answer your question. I do think that you could probably be profitable with a 26-foot box truck if you've got a broker or that runs a lot of like partial loads. LTL loads that maybe they don't want to use with a common carrier. I've got shippers that don't like to use common carriers, just for the simple fact that their load gets cross-docked so many times, and they've had damage done to the load, right? So they would prefer to use sprinters, box trucks, things like that. Typically, they of course still want you to be dock high. Some need lift gate, et cetera, et cetera. It just depends. But yeah, my immediate answer was to say 53 foot, but you could be profitable with a 26-foot box truck. It just depends on the lane, your relationships, and there again. Oh, now you got me off on a whole other tangent. I was going to end this video, but. Relationships being so key to this industry. It's happened to us. It's happened to other brokers, where, say you've got a carrier that's you've agreed to pick up a load. They've got the rate confirmation over to them. And this is another frustrating thing. You send over the confirmation, you get an email back from the carrier or the dispatcher saying, "Thanks, got it." No. I need that signed confirmation back. In fact, there's been more and more talk about putting a penalty in there if the confirmation's not signed and returned prior to the load picking up. So be watching for that. And check calls. You might be required to make check calls if it's not a load that requires tracking. Make sure that you're doing those check calls. A lot of times there are deductions for not performing, like say an AM and a PM check call. Okay, so you drivers, you dispatchers, make sure you're reading those confirmations to find out what all is required, right? I've got some loads that require a cold chain custody form, and I send it over to them. They got it. My email tracker says that they've opened it and looked at it 3 different times, and I specifically tell them when they book the load, when I send everything over, it's in the special notes on the confirmation, must be filled out, da 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 da, and they never fill it out. It's an FMCSA requirement. They never fill it out. And then when I ask them for it after the load's been completed, they say, well, what is that? Well, I told you when you booked the load, you didn't question it, just said, okay. So it's all about being thorough. It's about being professional. And I would rather pay more to a carrier that I work with on a regular basis than someone I have no relationship with. And then oftentimes when the market is down, I can go to bat for my regular carriers and say, hey, this is one of my best drivers. You know what I mean? We can't do $1.65 a mile on this. We've got to be closer to $2 or $2.25, $2.50, whatever it is. You know, we just have to. And 90% of the time, I'm able to get it for my carriers because they're regulars. And in fact, you know, I mean, I have customers that, you know, they call me on the weekends sometimes or in the evenings just to BS. You know, we talk about a lot of things. And you know, if we've got a good, reliable driver carrier that runs for us consistently, they don't mind paying a little bit extra because they know that they have no worries, right? But anyway, to get back to what I was first started to talk about, why I'm all over the place today. Maybe I just either haven't had enough coffee or too much coffee. But yeah, you have a carrier that is booked a load, and they have, you know, maybe like on a Tuesday, the load picks up on Thursday at 1 p.m. And you don't hear from that carrier or that dispatcher, that driver again, you know, and you maybe give them just a quick check call, say, hey, you know, half an hour before the load picks up, you know, we all good, you know, just call and make sure, you know, we're on time to pick up at our appointment today. And, oh, well, we're not going to be able to do that load. The truck broke down. You know, I mean, and it's just all, and it's, I don't know if some of these dispatchers get a meeting, and I'm not picking on everybody because I know I work with some really good dispatchers, but it's almost like, because I've seen it like in emails and heard it over the phone, it's almost word for word every single time. You know, it's the same part on a truck that broke, and that's the reason why they won't be able to break down. You know, they won't be able to, you know, to make pickup. So I don't know. And I realize that there's some unscrupulous brokers out there that'll find a cheaper truck and they'll say, oh, that load got canceled, and cancel on the carrier. And this, again, is why relationships are so important. You know, because it's worth more to me than to cancel on a carrier that I've got to make an extra $100, right, in gross profit on a load or something. If I get another carrier that says, well, I'll do that for $100 less, I really need that load, I can't do it. I can't do it. It's not worth it to me to destroy that relationship, right? It's I guess sort of like that old saying, you know, it takes, you know, 4 times as long to repair a burned bridge, you know. It's just I don't know. I know there's some out there that do. I will not. I'm afraid if I was immoral, my ancestors would come up out of the ground and get me, right? But anywho, guys, I'm gonna wrap this up. I've got messages from some of my agents and stuff right now I need to get back to, but if you guys are looking for anything, need anything, that we've got resources on the website and for brokers as well. We kind of put this together. If you're looking for a trucking school or association, insurance, government agency, some healthy tips, factoring company. Maybe you're just on your downtime and you want to go through some news or something. We've got some stuff on there. We've got some things that I want to get added, but anywho, I'm going to wrap this up. As always, be kind to one another, guys. And another thing before I go, boy, I really am all over the place. If you don't already have DAT and you need a 30-day free trial of DAT, we've got links for everything down below for you guys. It's something that they give me that I can pass on to you. If you're not already a member of the group, we've got some great resources there as well. Some really great partners that oftentimes do special discounts or things, promotions for group members and those following this channel and everything. If you need a bond, brokers, if you're out there and you need a bond, Bryant Surety Bonds is now a group partner. Get a hold of them. Their information is on the, and I'll try to remember to add it to the description on this afterwards. I didn't add it in there. I should have. But yeah, Bryant Surety Bonds. Tell them Tim sent you, so that way they know I'm letting you guys know about it, right? So, anywho, as always, be kind to one another. If you guys have any more questions, comments, feel free to drop them down below, and I will try to answer them in a timely manner. And have a great day. All right, make the best of it. Thanks.